Bentinho! Family, today I want to talk a bit about the teaching of Bentinho Massaro. First of all, I want to start by saying that my life was greatly impacted by Ben and his work. I've been to one of his retreats in Costa Rica. I spent about 6 months in his No Limits Society container, which in many ways was one of the most beautiful online containers I've ever experienced, really pristinely created in many respects. Um, Many times, Ben has activated me, motivated me, inspired me, and yeah, I just generally want to say thank you, Ben, for all that you've done and all that you are. I think Bentinho is an incredible human being, brilliant communicator, and in many ways, an extremely eloquent articulator of many subtle spiritual principles that can be very valuable. So, yeah, shout out to Ben. I wanted to start there and just really express genuine appreciation. And at the same time, I felt for a while a calling to express publicly some potential shadows or traps that I feel seekers can fall into when they engage with Ben's teaching. And so I'm gonna discuss a few of those. And first and foremost among those is that I feel in my experience that Ben's teaching places the quote unquote absolute, somewhere else. I remember the one time I attended a retreat with Ben, I actually raised my hand and asked, hey, Ben, is this right now the absolute, absolute, absolute? Is the absolute, absolute, absolute this right here, right now? And he said no. He said no to a room of about 100 people. He denied that this right here, right now is the absolute. And his teaching tends to suggest to people that they need to, quote unquote, penetrate the absolute, that they need to have some kind of rarefied, special, dissolution-y pop out type of experience where they completely pop out of the grand illusion of God nature and they penetrate into the space beyond the I am, the space beyond awareness, the space beyond God, which Ben deems the absolute. And the interesting thing is that I've had these types of pop out experiences, both sober and most notably with 5-MeO DMT. 5-MeO DMT reliably occasions these types of pop out experiences, full dissolution experiences. I've visited spaces of pre-vibratory stillness beyond all description, peace beyond description. I've melted into pure formless God nature, God energy. And I'm here to tell you today that that is no more absolute than this right here. That is no more absolute than you eating a burrito, you being with your kids. The personal is absolute. Or in another sense, you could say there is no absolute. Or everything is absolute. There's nothing more absolute than your present experience just as it is. Your present experience just as it is it. Is it. This is it. And the great genius of Peter Brown, my late friend and one of my great teachers, was that he really clarified this for me. I remember asking him about this point specifically and saying, some teachers make it sound like the absolute is somewhere else. We need to penetrate it. We need to move through all these stages, or in Buddhism, they talk about all these jhanas we need to go through before we can reach, para Brahman. And Peter's response was, that's all hogwash. Throw it away. This is it right now. There is nothing more absolute than this right now. This is it. And I remember when Peter delivered that profound message, I just was, it was like a moment of pure transmission and lightness and pure giddiness just swept through my body. And I just had to laugh because it was like, of course, where else would it be? Where else have we ever been? What else have we ever known? This right here, present experiencing, is all we've ever known. Any rarefied meditative pop-out experience that seems to occurs right here, right now, in this field of present experiencing. This is pure awareness, and this is that which is beyond awareness right here, right now. Right here, right now. No other time, no other place, no other space. And I really feel it's crucial to clarify this point, because this is like the ultimate treasure of spirituality. You know, we've been born into this treasure chest of absolute sparkling divinity right here, right now, absolute God nature. And I just personally feel I gotta attempt to get the message out there to more people to look nowhere else than their own immediate experience. You know, call off the search. This is it. This is it right now. And when we place the absolute somewhere else, we do this immense disservice. You know, we create yet another spiritual carrot on a stick that makes people feel like the absolute is this special, rarefied somewhere elseness, and maybe after 100 lifetimes of meditating or diligent spiritual seeking, I'll somehow someday penetrate the absolute, and then I can become this special thing called enlightened. And it's just not fucking like that. It's just not like that. Like, you know, peace to Ben, much love to Ben. You know, I think that type of teaching may be valuable in certain contexts for certain seekers. Everybody needs to find their own flavors. But for me, that was misleading. That was an obstacle. I needed to totally disband this notion of penetrating the absolute somewhere else. My most rarefied meditative absorption and pop-out experiences were no more special than me eating a goddamn slice of pizza right now. No. There is no specialness. There's just this evenness, this equalness. As Ben sometimes says, he talks about the equalness and evenness, and yet his teaching can create this subtle sense of the absolute being in some other special place that needs to be penetrated, when really it's just this right here. So that's the biggest thing I wanted to communicate. Next thing I wanted to touch on is that Ben repeatedly refers to all form as an illusion, the grand illusion, the illusion. You know, he says it in this kind of tone, like he's such a trickster, right? Like, I love this about Ben. He's truly a trickster. He kind of reminds me of like an Osho type character, really a trickster. He's a lot of fun. He has a great sense of humor, and he, you know, often talks about the illusion. And yeah, I remember Peter Brown one time saying, you know, there is no illusion. I don't see any illusion anywhere. All I see is reality. All there is reality. There is no illusion. There's just this right here expressing itself in all the ways it expresses itself, dancing itself forth in all the ways that it dances itself. And it's absolutely all inclusive. It's absolutely all inclusive. It includes absolutely everything. Ultimately, nothing is negated. Nothing is dismissed. Nothing is an illusion. Yeah, it's all like a magic show. It's all enchanted. Sure, this radiant presence here now, which is somehow on one hand just this insubstantial dreamlike vapor that, you know, is only this razor's edge of pure nowness. You know, the beginning of this sentence is totally gone. The end of this sentence can't be found until right now, and then it's gone. The past and future are nowhere to be found. In a profound sense, just this simple flash of instantaneous apparition is all that there is, and yet that flash of apparition is all inclusive. It includes everything, and it presents as everything, and it fully includes all this juicy, luscious formfulness, and it fully includes the appearance of selfing and, you know, getting to have an experience of being somebody, and these sacramental, poetic human journeys that we're on. All of that is fully included. It's just that all of it is increasingly seen to be nothing other than this instantaneous flash of radiant presence here now, which is the most absolute thing that can ever be found, just right here, right now. Because have you ever stepped outside of experience? It's just experience itself, or if you prefer the word awareness. Peter liked the word experience because experience feels more all-inclusive. It embraces and includes and suggests the inclusion of the formfulness rather than just this kind of abstract notion of an awareness or consciousness that is somehow separate from the formfulness. There's no dichotomy whatsoever. There's no actual dichotomy whatsoever. So you've never stepped outside of experience. Experience is all, present experiencing is all we ever know, and it's totally all-inclusive. It includes everything, and there is no illusion. There is no illusion ultimately. There's just this. There's just this right here, and it's all-inclusive. So that's another point I wanted to touch on. Another one here, a third one, is that Ben has a penchant for kind of creating or enjoying elaborate systems with stages. He's a big appreciator of the law of one, with this kind of map of 8 densities that the soul travels through on its spiritual evolution process. He also created this system with this notion of shepherd beings and mirror beings, and then I think there's something beyond mirror beings as well. And again, the tricky thing with any type of system of stages like this, any type of like levels of consciousness or any type of apparent hierarchy or progression, is that again, it can create this another spiritual carrot on a stick, like a really elaborate system of carrots on a stick that are ever receding on the horizon, and the seeker is made to always feel like, oh, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? When I graduate from this stage, what's the next stage? What's the next stage? And, similar to point number 1 with placing the absolute somewhere else, this keeps the seeker locked into the chase. Ben sometimes says, never lose your seeking impulse, but this can be also kind of a misleading statement, because oftentimes it's actually the seeking impulse that is the source of tremendous suffering. The seeking impulse that says happiness is somewhere else, enlightenment is somewhere else, finality is somewhere else. I just need to keep checking these boxes and jumping through more hoops and moving through more stages. Then maybe someday I'll reach the rarefied, enlightened absolute. This is a source of spiritual suffering. So actually the seeking mechanism gradually is seen through and gradually drops away as one notices that this right here, right now is already liberation. This is already unconditional freedom. If unconditional freedom required any condition whatsoever, such as zero selfing or penetrating the absolute or graduating through all these stages, if it required any condition whatsoever to be unconditional freedom, it would not be unconditionally free. You see, it's already unconditional freedom. And so you can start from the finish line. This is another great message of Peter Brown's. Just start from the finish line. Go to radiant nowness right here, right now, and see that it's already free of any condition. See that it could not ever be pinned down as this or that. It could not be boxed in. It could not be caged within any condition, any concept, any structure, any system. It's already the utterly uncaged, the utterly slippery, the utterly non-finite right here, right now. So no need for systems and stages. Just start from the finish line and just start to be seduced by the sheer lusciousness, the sheer unpindownable juiciness of this effulgence that is erupting forth from every nook and cranny of this utter fullness, The sense fields are utterly full of this sparkling buzzingness. Just let yourself feel that. That was Peter's entire yoga. His entire suggestion was just find ways to snap yourself out of normalcy and just go to the bottomless richness all around. Be with the buzzingness, the aliveness, the sheer infinite detail and artistry without any concepts, without words, without descriptions, without labels. Just stay with that infinitude. If you close your eyes and you look at the sparkling infinite pixelation of dancing light in the space you'd usually think of as behind your eyes, it can become quickly and immediately clear that you could write a billion treatises about what that sparkling dancing light is, and you would never be able to pin down or say what it is. Not even one instant of experience could ever be pinned down in any type of system, any type of structure, any type of condition, or any type of concept. And, this is what Nagarjuna meant hundreds of years ago, the great Buddhist master, when he said, all philosophies are mental fabrications. There has never been a doctrine by which one could enter the essence of things. So, gradually on the path, you see that all philosophies, all systems, all maps need to be discarded. And, you see that at the point that you see that. But a lot of seekers, I think, are ready to see that. And so that's why I'm sharing this message right now, that you can burn all of that down, and you can just start from the finish line. You can stay with the non-finite, ever dancing, ever morphing pixelation that presents as this fullness of all the sense fields. You can just realize you don't know what that is and stay with that unknown enchantment, that unknown majesty that is dancing itself forth through all the sense fields, and simply staying with that positivity of infinity here and now, non-finite radiance here and now. That will begin to show you what it is. It will just begin to directly reveal to you that it is the finish line. It is instantaneous completeness here and now. It is unconditional freedom, unconditional love here and now. It will reveal itself if you just stay with it. It will do the heavy lifting, as Peter will say, and it will show you that all we ever know is present experiencing. We can't say anything about it, and it's all we ever have to deal with. All we ever have to deal with is this now moment, and it's already done. It's a done deal. It's dancing itself. It's doing itself. So this is really the good news. Effortless intelligence, no maintenance required. This is it, and it's doing itself. So, yeah. Point number 4 that I want to touch on here is that, a characteristic of Ben's human personality seems to be a real love for putting forth an image of almost being some kind of like enlightened Superman or superhero. Ben has stated that as a child, he loved the character Superman, and he kind of tries to emulate like a Superman. And in many ways, this is really inspiring. It's really inspiring to see like Ubermensch type figures who seem to have transcended the human condition. This can be really activating. However, there can also be a shadow of this, because in this putting forth of this kind of image of impeccable super heroicness, there can be a not showing the vulnerable humanity. The vulnerable humanity can remain hidden. The wounded inner child that we all carry on some level can remain hidden, or at least the soft underbelly of the soft-hearted inner child, and the pain that we all carry, the pain that we all experience. There's just inevitably a certain amount of pain in the human experience, and no amount of enlightenment is going to entirely make that go away. It's just not the case. At least I never met someone for whom that was the case. It's just there's an inherent pain in the human experience, and I don't think we'd really want it any other way, because it keeps us humble, it keeps us grounded, it cracks us open, it deepens us, it keeps us connected to what people experience here on earth. It allows us to grieve the loss of loved ones and participate in that type of sacred honoring of what people meant to us. So pain can be a beautiful texture. And, this image of the kind of bulletproof, unfuckwittable Superman can kind of obscure vulnerable humanity. It can make it easy for people to put someone like Ben on a pedestal and to subtly devalue their own humanness. And it can make enlightenment seem like this special, out of reach, superhuman thing. And it can also create some kind of weird power dynamics sometimes. When figures put forth a superhuman image, there can be, interesting and sometimes sticky power dynamics that can arise. And you know, there have been other people that have explored some of those dynamics with respect to Ben's ecosystem, Ben's vortex. I'm not gonna dive deeper into that here because I I don't really want to speculate. That's not my main purpose here. My main purpose is to just primarily look at the teachings themselves and how they're presented. But I do think it's also important to, just notice the image that Ben presents and how that does lend itself to a certain placing of enlightenment as this special thing on a pedestal represented by Ben, that then anyone engaging with his teachings is sort of you know trying to become that, or idolizing that in a way, or making that something special, which can be a block to noticing that just you as you are right now, the messy, idiosyncratic, ragtag, patchwork human character who you are, and the with all your scars, with all your wounds, with all your warts, with all your foibles, with all your deepest fears. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, and that's already it, you see. That's already it, and none of that needs to change one iota for that to be unconditional freedom. That's unconditional freedom already. That's unconditional freedom presenting as the patchwork tapestry of you-ness that doesn't need to change one iota. You don't need to change a hair on your head. You don't need to become anything else or become special. You're it already, just as you are. Just as you are. As Peter Brown once said, a bum pissing is a holy man. you know? Can you feel the liberation of that? Nothing to heal, nothing to improve, nothing to change, nothing to achieve. This is it now. This is unconditional freedom. And that's not to say that many of our human characters won't have aspirations to grow and heal and create things and accomplish things. Sure, that's all fully included too. That's super fun. It's really fun to play the game of being human and blossoming and flowering and growing and developing. But that's not what unconditional freedom is about. Unconditional freedom is about what this is right now, inexhaustibly, inextricably, unchangeably, stainlessly, free right now, just as you are. Nothing wrong, without needing to change anything, without needing to lift a finger or change a hair on your head. You're perfect. You are the inherent perfection of imperfection, the inherent completeness of incompletion. You are that. And the last point I wanted to touch on here is that Ben can sometimes seem to assume that his mission should be everyone's mission, or already is everyone's true mission. Ben's organization's stated mission is igniting global awakening. And they sometimes put forth the idea that this is already kind of the secret mission that's just in the field of the collective. And if everyone began to awaken, everyone would realize that that is everyone's true mission, and everyone would just align with this mission. And I remember on a retreat of Ben's one time, we were all asked to say in unison, "I promise to fulfill the mission." And most everybody said these words in unison. And I raised my hand and said, "Hey, yeah, I just want to make a note that I found myself unable to say those words right there because it felt like something was being kind of imposed on me from the outside, and it didn't feel true to my organic nature." And without going into too much detail, I'll just say that created a bit of a stir on that retreat. Ben and one of his facilitators seemed to ruffle their feathers a little bit. Ben went on a bit of a loud rant about how we just don't care enough. It was something like that. I don't remember exactly. It was something like, "You don't care." And his facilitator was trying to make me promise to fulfill my calling, which was another part of what we'd been working on, defining our calling. And I just said to the guy, "Look, man, I promise to be what I am. That's what I'll promise you in this moment. I promise to be what I am. Promise to be what I am." And that was a defining that was a defining moment on my path. And that's a great example of how being on a retreat and being exposed to something like that potentially has a shadowy element of, our mission must be your mission. That created the conditions for me to really affirm to myself, like, no, 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 nothing apparently outside of myself tells me what my mission is. As Peter Brown would say, you are the ultimate authority of your own experience. You are the ultimate authority of your own experience. And this requires ruthless honesty, of course, ruthless honesty, and hopefully people around you who can give it to you straight, because it's very easy to get deluded if you start telling yourself, I'm the ultimate authority. But ultimately you are the ultimate authority of your own experience. And it was very empowering for me in that moment to put my foot down and say, no, somebody, nothing, of course, in a profound sense, there is no outside or inside. This is all that. And yet at the same time, there can come moments on your path where something that is apparently outside of you can seem to try to impose something on you or tell you that their map should be your map or their way should be your way. And those are opportunities, those are profound moments to potentially put your foot down and say, no, I source what I am from within. And I promise to be me, and that's all I ever have to do. Or, whatever expression comes up for you. You don't got to promise to be you. You don't got to promise anything. You don't got to promise anything to anyone. But for me, that's what resonated with me in that moment was just, look, I promise to be what I am. And, there's a certain paradox there, because it's like, oh, so you just promise to do what everybody's always doing. We're all just always being ourselves. We're all just always being what we are, and we can't be anything else. We just are what we are. You are you. Nothing to do but be you, baby. Nothing to do but be you. And so, that was an important moment for me, an important moment of kind of organic recognition of my own intrinsic authority. And so, yeah, I just want to also just put it out there that no one else's mission needs to be your mission. What awakening looks like will be different for every single one. There are as many paths home to God, to now, as there are individual beings, and your path won't look like anyone else's. It will look like you. It will look like you being you. It will look like you being you. So whatever that looks like, it could look like anything. It could look like bagging groceries. It could look like living on the fringes of society. It could look like, living in a castle. It could look like just an ordinary, solid job, solid home, solid family. It could look like becoming a monk. It could look like anything. It doesn't have to look like anything in particular. It doesn't have to look like anything special. So that's pretty much what I had to say today. Once more, huge appreciation to Bentinho Massaro. Ben, I really appreciate you. If you ever see this video, I love you, man. Yeah, huge love. Thank you. I respect the hell out of you. You are in so many ways an inspiring catalyst on my path, and a brilliant and radiant man. So thank you for being you. And yeah, I received a lot of benefit from your work, and at the same time just felt an increasingly strong heart calling over the years to share these messages publicly for whoever might find value in them, in whatever way they might find value in them. So I hope this was beneficial to somebody. Yeah, much love, much peace, much joy, much rest. Wish to you right here and now. Thank you, everybody. I love you. Take good care. Take good care. Take good care. Be well. Be well. Nothing to do but be you, baby. Nothing to do but be you. Peace and love.